Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. We've got the great privilege of having Simon Cox on with us shortly. So we thank him for giving us the time to interview him with Vic. Just a couple of things from me. We have got a Michael Doughty event, which is on the 27th of March, Monday evening. So we won't be doing an On the Sofa then. At the Legends Lounge, £10 a ticket. It'll be a bit of two halves. Half it'll be Vic interviewing Michael about his career, and the second half will be about his new position at Swindon with the sustainability role. So please, if you can join us, we'd love to see you down there. Let's get the Legends Lounge full for Michael's return. Other thing is, I've got a bit of a request. If anybody can help us at all, if anybody knows anything about SoundCloud, can they please let us know? Because we need your pick your brains over a few things. So if there is anybody that has used SoundCloud or knows anything about it, if they can let us know. Other thing quickly is the fan groups. You may well have seen on socials that we've just created a new fan group for the US. So we've had lots of interest, but if you do know anybody in the US that friends, family that you think would like to get involved in the supporters group, please let us know. Either send their details to us or contact them, contact us on socials. So we can get a group together. It's going to be, because it's a big place, so there'll be different regions that we do. So we've got a few people that we can call on to be coordinators, but we just need to see where everybody's located. Okay. The other one is our Scotland supporters group, which we've got two wonderful people who are starting that up, Rich Parkin and Craig. So if you know anybody from Scotland who is a Swindon fan, please again let us know, and we can let Craig and Rich know. They are in the process of setting up a Twitter page and things like that. Okay, so I think that's all from me. So let's bring Vic on. Good evening, Mr. Morgan.
Good evening to you, Chris Kyle. How are we this evening? Are we okay?
All the better after Saturday.
Yes, indeed. A good performance and a good point at Leighton Orient. I've got some SAS travel news for you. Open tomorrow between 7 and 8 for phone bookings only. Just Walsall on sale tomorrow night. Please get in touch if you want a seat. Coaches have to be ordered tomorrow night. So at the close of play for them tomorrow evening, then they'll have to order the buses. So if you want to go to Walsall a week tomorrow, the 14th of March, that's how you do it. Rochdale is on a reserve list. The coach has to be ordered at the weekend, and contact details are available for SAS travel on our OSC website and the SAS profile. Please don't use Twitter to respond to them. They'd like you to use their contact details on the profile if possible. That's your SAS news.
Our news update. Okay, so let's go on, Simon, and we can get started. Good evening, Simon. Oh, and he's gone.
I was going to say, I went up and down then.
Very good.
Hello and goodbye.
That was brief.
Lots of goals to go through, so we can't be brief.
Lots of goals. Yeah, lots of goals. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a great pleasure. So I will leave you in Vic's capable hands. Again, anybody, if you've got any questions for Simon, please leave them in the comments. And as I say, every time we'll get us through as many as we can, but it's not possible to get through everything. So please bear with us. So I will leave you, and I will see you later.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. Very good evening to you, Simon. Thank you ever so much for joining us. You might recognise one or two of the shirts behind me that you wore, not the actual shirts, but the shirts that you wore during your time at Swindon Town Football Club with great distinction. There's also the League Cup final team behind me because it is March, 69, etc., etc. So we're on.
I wasn't in that team.
No, you weren't. You might have volleyed a few goals on that pitch because it wouldn't have had to touch the floor, I tell you. Right, brilliant. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Rob says, good evening all. Great result on Saturday, all considered. Welcome, Coxie. It's a great pleasure to have you along. And you are known for spectacular goals. I mean, I've been looking at them this afternoon. Some of them are just unbelievable. We'll talk about all that a little bit later on, but it's a quick one for you straight away. Graham Ballard asked this question. how many attempts he reckons he'd need to recreate that goal against Walsall. Has he still got his first touch? I mean, it was breathtaking. I mean, take us through that goal. Can you remember it?
Oh, yeah, of course I remember it. I mean, some would argue I didn't have a first touch in the first place. So, but there you go. No, listen, it was one of those that, because I remember leading up to that game as well, that I hadn't scored in a few games as well, which was it was quite strange for the form that I was in that whole season. So, listen, it was a bit of a hopeful ball from Lillian Nallis, and I mean, every time I've seen it back, I wonder how I wasn't offside. I'll be honest, but I wasn't, and listen, it was one of those touches that comes off one in however many. It's not something that I would do regularly. So probably, to answer the question, absolutely, probably not.
Well, you say that, but if I mention Nottingham Forest against Birmingham City, and also West Bromwich Albion against Tottenham, and also Fenerbahce, I mean, it's not once in a blue moon, is it? I mean, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, my highlight reel is pretty good.
Yeah.
So, listen, I was really proud of a lot of the goals that I scored, and to be fair, I'm really proud of all of them. But it's the spectacular ones that obviously always get the highlights. But I'm more than happy with the tap-in as well.
Yeah, I was going to say you did score tap-ins. We'll give you that, so that's fair enough. Anthony says one of my favourite players, was such a great player for us, kept us up one season. Great trio with Painter and Hal Robson-Cano, of course, who went on to star for Wales in that Euro competition. What a great player Coxie was. Vividly remember his hat trick at Scunthorpe. That's from Dan. Simon, which is your favourite goal, Walsall or Fenerbahce? We'll ask you that a little bit later. Sean says, hi, Simon. In more recent times, there were links to you possibly coming back to the club. Were these just the usual rumours? Let's get that one out of the way, and then we'll get onto your career. Were you going to come back at one point?
Yeah, I pretty much agreed it with Lee Power. So him and my agent at the time were kind of good friends, and I pretty much agreed it. And then last minute sort of change that happened, and then it just didn't happen, and I ended up coming to Southend. So yeah, I was very, very close to signing. I was gonna. I think he had a place out in Marbella, or Swindon were on pre-season tour in Marbella. I'd near enough booked a flight to come out as well.
Oh, goodness me. That would have been quite a comeback. We'd have all been very happy to have seen you back. Let's go back to the beginning then. You were born in Tilehurst, which many Speedway fans will know, of course, was home of the Reading Racers for a fair old while, and not too far from the Medeski Stadium. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah. No. One junction up the M4 towards London, and then I was there. So I was there from the age of 9 at Reading, which was, obviously someone who was born in that area was a real privilege, and to play for the club was great as well. But being local and playing for that club was special for me.
So how did it go at Reading? Because obviously, that was the club that you joined first and foremost because it was your local club. So how did it go for you?
Well, the first spell there, I was there from 9 to 21. So I came all the way through, saw lots of players come and go, lots of managers and lots of coaches come and go as well, which was, sort of toughens you up a little bit. And then when you get to the first team picture, when you sign your first professional contract, and you've got some really good players in Dave Kitson, Kevin Doyle, Leroy Lita, Shane Long, all ahead of you, it becomes a real tough ask. All I ever wanted was a chance under Steve Coppell, never really got it. Made my debut, which was brilliant. Great day for my family and myself. But you could quite easily see that my time was kind of numbered there. And then obviously when they go on to win the league and get a record amount of points in the Championship and get promoted to the Premier League, the time just was never going to be, my time on the pitch was never going to really happen. So I had to seek pastures new, really, and go and find and forge a career for myself. So obviously had a couple of loan spells before that, before coming to Swindon. Went to Brentford as a midfield player. Didn't really work out. Then went to Northampton as a striker. Ended up scoring my first professional goal there away at Leyton Orient, which was something. Didn't know what to do as a celebration. Just kind of went away. But the season that season came to a real like sharp end for me. I'd scored something like 3 and 6, 3 and 7, something like that. And I was just chomping at the bit to carry on. Obviously, the season finishes. I knew that was where I wanted to play. I wanted to play as a focal point, score loads of goals, and then I had to find a loan spell for myself. To say, Reading were in the Premier League, so it wasn't necessarily going to be at Reading. So I had to find a club that was going to be able to play to my strengths, allow me to do my stuff, and thankfully. Paul Sturrock got on the phone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I went through the list and it was Paul Sturrock, Dave Byrne, Maurice Melpass, Dave Byrne and Danny Wilson. I think they were your managers at Swindon. Is that right? Those were the... Dave Byrne had 2 spells as caretaker, of course. So Paul Sturrock rings you up. You come on loan at Swindon and you kind of immediately make your mark. How was that move to the county ground?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I had 2 options. I had down the road 2 or 3 junctions to Swindon, or I had a really long journey and somewhere else at Yeovil. So, but I had a good friend of mine, Lloyd Owusu, at Yeovil at the time. So he was obviously jumping at the bit for me to come and play with him down at Yeovil. But I was a sort of homegrown boy. I wanted to stay at home around family. I was, didn't really want to be living away from home. So Swindon was my choice. I'd understood about Paul Sturrock. I understood that he was, lovely, lovely man. I understood that he wanted you to work hard. He had a certain way of playing, and he basically said, "Look, if you do what you were doing in the reserve team for Reading, you'll be fine." Didn't enjoy his Terror Tuesday running sessions, but nobody does. So, but it was something that gave me good grounding, allowed me to perform, and yeah, he was quirky, but a lovely man.
How'd you get on with his stovies?
That and corned beef hash, he was all right.
Yeah, he had his particular. I mean, how was the diet? Is it a strange? Because the players who've played under him, I knew. I spoke to him a lot when he was at Plymouth because I live in Devon. But he had particular diets, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, at that time of football, it wasn't really a thing. So you could have pretty much whatever you wanted, and I remember he would just literally say to the chefs at the stadium, "Let's make whatever," and then we'd come back from training, and there would be a mixture of all sorts on the stove for the lads to go and tuck into. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't like you would see now and pastas, chickens, and veg and rice and everything else. It was if he ordered a Chinese and put it on there, it probably wouldn't be out of place.
Amazing. So you have a loan deal at Swindon, and I've always thought of you as a confident player, but I remember this quote that you came up with at the press conference, and I think you might know which quote I'm going to throw at you now. When you said you were the best player in the world, I mean, how important is confidence?
Did I?
Yeah, apparently so. It's quite a famous. Yeah, but how important is confidence? Because to score the sort of goals you did, as well as the tap-ins, you've got to be able to have a confidence in your ability, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's confidence, and there's whatever that was. But yeah, listen, I fully believed in my ability, even as a young kid. Like I said, even coming through the ranks at Reading, all I needed was a chance, and if I'd have got that, then I felt like I was going to be able to perform. So all I needed was a chance. I got given my chance to play regular football at Northampton, scored some goals, then got my opportunity to come to Swindon, and I fully believed that, I was coming from a club that was in a better league, so I felt like I was a better player. So then coming to Swindon, I felt like my standards had to be the Premier League or Championship level, and I never dropped that. I remember my dad always saying to me about every day in training, he was like, it doesn't matter what the weather's like, what the pitches are like, your standard is the Reading Championship Premier League standard. So that stuck with me all the way through my time, and I made sure that every day in training, I worked as hard as I possibly could. I tried to score as many goals in training as I possibly could, and then that transitioned into games. And as long as I was in the box, and as long as I was getting 2 or 3 chances a game, I always felt that I would score goals.
Yeah, I got a Simon. Mike says, Simon, you're a great player for us, a fox in the box. Anne says, I was at the Fenerbahce game, me, my husband, and 2 other Swindon fans. Lee says, definitely one of my favourite Swindon players. So lots of those coming in. We'll forward all the comments to you at some point, so you'll get all the comments at the end of this. Yeah, because there's a lot coming in. I mean, you get 3 hat tricks in a season as well, didn't you? All away from home, if I remember rightly. 1 at Northampton, 1 at Hartlepool on a Friday night, and 1 at Scunthorpe. Now, I remember that one at Hartlepool on a Friday night. We went 3 up, didn't we? And it was 3-3 in the end. How was that?
Tough to take. I think in my whole career, I think I only was on the winning team once, and I scored as a hat trick, and that was for West Brom v Cardiff. Every other game we drew.
Goodness.
Oh no! Did we win? Did we win against Northampton? Was that 4-3?
Yeah, it was 4-3. So you're okay.
Yeah, twice. Yeah. I was going to say, I was thinking to myself there. But listen, I remember the Hartlepool one because she's my wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time. She got one of the fan buses up to Hartlepool on a Friday night, and she got put into the Hartlepool end, and she said, "Look, I can't be in here. I'm with the Swindon teams." And they said, "Oh, look, you'll be fine. It's not, it's not that type of game. There's no big rivalry between the 2 teams or anything." And she said, "No, but there will be when he scores hat trick." So she got credit to the steward already. So yeah, it was nice to get one. Again, I think I'd scored 1 and 2 like here and there throughout the start of the season, and I never got that 3rd one. So to get the 3rd one in that game was lovely, and it being a Friday night. But also, I think one of their players got a hat trick as well that game.
Yeah, I remember rightly. Yeah,
and I remember going to collect a match ball from the referee at the end of the game, and he came over to me and went, "Are you taking that one or am I?" I went, to be honest, I didn't even know that he scored a hat trick at the time. I just basically went, "Well, it's a bit strange you taking it." So yeah, I obviously got that, and listen, it was a nice day, but would have been nice to be on the winning team.
Yeah, it was a long trip back, I can tell you, because obviously it's weird, isn't it? When you get a point away from home, generally, like Saturday at Leyton Orient, you travel back and it's a great point. You think, oh, fair enough, that's really good. But that's kind of disappointing when you're 3 up as a fan. But anyway, you got a hat trick, so congratulations.
And a long way as well.
Yeah, it is a long way, absolutely. Right, yeah. Anthony says that's one of the best games I saw. It was a 4-3 win at Northampton, and he got a hat trick. So there you are. That confirms that one. Terry Clark says, good to see you again, Simon. I was devastated when you left us. Can you ask Simon, says Steve, if he's keeping up with Southend's trials and tribulations? Also, how did the financial problems affect the players when you were there? Must have been tough being the player in the season of the season 3 seasons running. Yeah, we'll get into club finances a little later, and football finances as well, because I watched a video this afternoon where you talked about how people sort of jump on footballers when they know they're earning a lot of money every week, and how they're quick to get into that. So if you don't mind, we'll talk about that a little later. So Paul Sturrock, those 3 hat tricks then, and Paul Sturrock, 88 appearances for Swindon, 48 goals. Now, if you talk of a striker, 1 in 2 is a pretty good ratio, isn't it? So that's not a bad record, is it?
No, if I was able to carry that on throughout my career, I would have been really happy. I think I ended up as a sort of 1 in 4 kind of person, which is, still not too bad. But yeah, listen, I hit some really good numbers when I was at the club. I think it gave me the platform. It gave me the opportunity to, like I say, be that person who was in the box all the time. Listen, I was lucky enough. I had some really good partners as well. So, the likes of Billy, the likes of Barry Core. So it was nice for me to be able to play alongside people like that, and them take the bumps and bruises and allow me to sort of do the nice thing.
How competitive were you with your partners up front? I mean, was there a competition between you?
Not from my point of view, but then I was scoring the goals, so it didn't really matter. No, not particularly. Listen, if I scored and then Billy or Barry scored, then I was really happy. If Billy scored or Barry scored, then I was happy, but devastated that I hadn't scored. So as long as we were on the winning team, or as long as we got chances, then you could always look back and think, why did I not score or something like that. But there was never really that. Or I don't want them to score in case I'm not in the team next week or anything else like that. There was nothing like that. Plus, I used to play golf with Billy as well, so couldn't have that rivalry.
No. So what makes a good strike partner for you then? I mean, you said they take the lumps and the bumps for you so you can get the goals, but what is a good strike partner for you?
Well, for me, he was obviously a big guy because I'm not the biggest, but someone that would allow me to just go around doing my thing in terms of like getting behind, running the channels, coming deep, receiving the ball. They would just be able to do the horrible side of things and challenge the horrible defenders and get the knocks in the back of the head and the bumps and the bruises and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be anyone taller than me is pretty good for me, I think.
The ability to find that space in the box, then how does that come about? Is that practice? Is it in your head already? How does that work?
I was never somebody who liked to be up against players, so space was always going to be my friend. And if that meant that standing still sometimes, because defenders can't really stand still, they have to move all the time. So as a striker, if you can stand still, or if you make front post run and you're on the move, then inevitably you're not playing up against anybody. So, and then confidence comes into it as well. Being able to have that confidence of making that run, knowing that there's a possibility that the ball's going to be in that area. And then if you start scoring goals, chances seem to keep coming your way. So you just got to keep making those runs, and also looking at things like rebounds off of the goalkeeper, off of the framework. They're always nice ones to tap in. So always sort of finding your way, finding movement forward in towards goal is always a nice one to be.
Yeah, when you go through those barren spells, then what keeps you going? Because I think you had 1 or 2 chances when you went through a couple of barren spells when the ball just wouldn't go in the net, and you must think, where's the next goal coming from? How does that work?
It's a tough one because there's never anything that you look at and think, oh, that's why, or I'm not doing this, or why have I stopped doing that, or anything else like that. I think you just you can't score every chance you have, and that's that's not just necessary for me. That's for every player that ever plays the game. So you have to keep making those movements. You have to keep trying to find your way into the box, because it's very easy. And I went through a really long spell after leaving Swindon at Reading, and it was through Nottingham Forest and Reading. I went over a calendar year without scoring a goal. I'll be honest, I probably got a bit scared of the box because I just didn't want to miss. I didn't want to shoot either. So when I was at Swindon, I was like full of confidence, high on life. shoot from it from everywhere, and like I say, if you keep making those runs, chances will end up happening. And sometimes you just need one to come off your backside and go in, and that then puts that smile on your face. The shoulders go back a little bit, the chest goes out, and then all of a sudden the goals or the chances keep coming, and then you start going on a roll again. So there is never one thing that you can pinpoint. It just needs you to sometimes remember that you're human at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, you did all right in one particular season because you got 32 goals in all competitions, 29 league goals, which eclipsed the great Peter Eastoe in 1975, who got 26 league goals. Now, he was a fabulous striker. You're much too young to remember Peter Eastoe, but he also plays for West Bromwich Albion, one of your former clubs. But, to get a record like that is something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was beyond my wildest dreams. I know that, but it was, again, we talk about confidence and scoring goals and stuff. To have a season where pretty much everything you touch went in, which was amazing. It was one to keep on the highlight reel for sure.
Sure, and of course you did the Evening Advertiser Player of the Year sweep of everything, I think, as well, didn't you?
I remember Chris Kamara coming down to do the awards dinner at the end of the season. I should have just stood on the stage with him, but because I kept getting up and coming down, and then getting back to my seat, and then getting back up again. So it was an interesting end of season awards dinner.
How did you get that relationship with the fans? I mean, it's easy if you're scoring goals, I guess. Because already the fans are on your side, aren't they? But you did have a rapport with the supporters, and people have said to me, "Oh, you were always happy to talk to people and sign autographs and all that kind of thing." How, is that in you? Did you have to get taught as a young player? How did that work?
Yeah, I think when you grow up at a football club like Reading, you get told how to be as a person. And because I was a local boy, and a lot of like my friends and family members and friends of family and that sort of thing would come to the games, or people that knew my brother or something like that would always go to the games. You just get to talk to people. And I've always been someone who's been really honest. And if somebody came up to me and said, you were rubbish today, I'd be like, all right, probably was, and I would have that conversation with somebody. But in the flip side, if somebody turned around and said you were amazing, then you have to take that as well. So you can't always front up when things are really good. You always have to front up when things are bad as well. And I mean, I saw the Charlie Austin thing, and I thought it was brilliant, because it's very easy when things are going really well, everyone applauds you and says how great you are. But when things are going badly, you also, as a player, you need to front that as well. And I've always been someone who's happy to do so.
Sure. On that subject, Kevin says Austin and Cox would be a good one. Would you fancy that?
I would have, actually. Yeah, I think I would have done. It would have been an interesting partnership. I know that.
Yeah. Of course, you share something in common. Not only did you play for Swindon, of course, but you're both in Australia, which we'll get to a little later, until recently. So Paul Sturrock eventually departs back to the southwest and goes back to Plymouth. Dave Byrne has a little spell as caretaker, and then Maurice Malpass comes in. How was that?
Yeah, I went back to Reading. So my loan spell had finished. I went back to Reading. I remember Dave Byrne, I think one of his last games was Yeovil away, actually. And then I went back to Reading for January, and then end up signing in January. I remember Maurice getting on the phone to me, and I'll be honest, I think it was just an easy one for him. Like, it was one of those that to get him on a good side of the fans. I think if he brought me back, it was a nice one for him to sort of say, look what I can do, kind of thing. Be honest, I was probably going to come back anyway, regardless of who the manager was, because I knew the football club, I knew how the ground was, and my rapport with the fans, and the players, and there was never really any other destination for me unless it was going to be to a higher division, and that wasn't available at the time. So, when I spoke to Morris, I didn't know who Morris Malpass was. I'll be honest, like not my era of football. So when he got on the phone and said, "Would you come back?" and I was like, "Yeah, no problem." We got the deal done pretty quickly, and then signed. Obviously, was he a great manager? Probably not. But you get them in football; they're everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention Histon, but can I mention Histon? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Not one of the greatest days, was it?
No.
What are your memories of it?
I know got a good history with Histon. I'll tell you, we get knocked out of that cup, and then when my first pre-season game with West Brom, I missed the penalty there. So yeah, my record at Histon is terrible. Yeah, I mean, but I guess the sort of saving grace in that is they beat Leeds as well that year. So we weren't the only sort of higher ranking team that went out, and I just remember going there, and it was a really small, tight ground. Dressing rooms about the size of a cupboard, so it was tight, and I don't know, like the reason why the higher ranking teams get beat in those situations is purely simply mindset. And I reckon we probably walked there or got there and thought we'd walk it instead of, digging in and grafting our way through. And then, like I say, we probably would have had Leeds in the next round. And so, yeah, it was a purely mindset problem, I think, that day.
And then there was a defeat in Johnston's Paint, I think, the following week. And then Malpass departs, another change of manager. Again, Dave Burney's. I mean, how is that when managers come and go? How is that for players?
I guess it depends on your relationship with the manager, really. If you're not playing, then it's probably the best thing in the world because you get a new slate for the next person that comes in. If you're playing and you're loving him, then it's not a great thing. So, I mean, I got on well with Morris, no problem. But I just remember it just didn't have that feel, the way that you'd want it to feel. And we probably weren't playing the right way that we needed to play, and going from Paul Sturrock and playing with crosses in the box and getting people in the box and playing with high energy. It just didn't feel right, I guess. So maybe the change of manager was just a really nice thing to happen.
Yeah, I obviously for Morris, not great to lose his job, but
no.
That's football, isn't it? And there are one or two more comments coming in. And in that season I mentioned, didn't you score the same as Ricky Lambert, says Dave, at Rovers one season? And I think it was quite a competition for you, wasn't there, between him and you? And you what happened last day of the season? Well, how did that come down to that? Because you were 20.
Oh, the Peterborough game.
Yeah.
I think I needed to score. I think I needed to score 2 and him not to score, or I needed to score 3 and him not to score. And I remember scoring really early as well, and I thought, oh, got a chance here. And then scored a second. And then I remember, I just kept thinking to myself, what a way to top off a really good season, but with a hat trick. And bearing in mind, Peterborough were promoted anyway, so they weren't really that bothered. And I just never got that one more chance, because I remember talking to Michael Timlin at half time and saying, I think I just need one more. If I get one more, then I'll be super happy. But I just never found that one chance, and it was not something that I can't never regret anything, having a good season like that from a goal scoring point of view. But it was just one thing I thought, I would have capped off what an amazing individual season to finish with the Golden Boot as well.
You tied with him though, didn't you? I mean, you didn't.
Yeah, I think so. I'll be honest with you. All I remember is in the Swindon programme, every weekend, every home game, they would put me and Ricky Lambert side by side, and our goals tally would just keep going up and up. So it always gave me that little bit of motivation to keep looking at him and thinking, oh, you might be one ahead, or we're equal here. Can I get ahead, and stuff like that? So maybe that was a bit of smart mind play from whoever was doing the programming.
Some player though to be up against. I mean, he wasn't bad, was he?
No, listen, and I think also a massive set of credit to him because, similar to us, we weren't the best team in the world, and nor were Bristol Rovers at the time. And to get two players scoring loads of goals in their respective teams was sort of credit to both players, really.
Yeah, definitely. Tom says, I was on the holidays in Teignmouth once wearing a Swindon shirt in a pub. The landlord was the goalkeeper for, dare I mention it, Histon, when they beat us. How about that? That's quite a story, isn't it? I bet that was a very difficult pint to swallow. Yeah, definitely. So when were you aware that other clubs were looking at you? Because obviously scoring goals, people are starting to look at you. There were 2 or 3 big bids coming in. Andrew Fitton was turning the bids down. There'd been a takeover at the football club. Again, finances weren't great, that sort of thing. So when were you aware that other clubs were coming in for you?
Really early on, because I remember we played Cheltenham away, probably around about third, fourth, fifth game of the season. And I remember Danny Wilson had issued a hands-off to myself and Anthony McNamee, because I think there was a few people sort of sniffing around at that time. And then we got into January. Obviously, had carried on scoring goals, which was great. But I had a really good relationship with Danny. I had a really good relationship with Andrew. And I always said, unless it's something that you guys are happy with, or it's something that I desperately want, then I'm happy to stay here until the end of the season. I want to go and score loads of goals, and I want to help the football club. But if it's something that you need, or something like, if let's say somebody come in and offered like 3 or 4 million quid, and you thought, you know what, we can wipe away this debt, we can invest it back into the club, and it was a football club that I wanted to go to, then we would have done the deal. But that wasn't around. So I was more than happy to carry on and just keep playing my stuff. And I remember, I think one of the last days of the January transfer window, and we played Huddersfield away, and Lee Clark was the manager, and he put a bid in. And we were staying in the hotel that he was staying in as well. And I remember just sat there, and I got a phone call. I think I got a phone call from Andrew, and he said, "We've just had a bid from Huddersfield." I said, "Well, we're playing them tomorrow." So it was just, I think that was just a bit of a, try and mesh in my head sort of thing. And I ended up scoring, so it was fine. But it was, it was just, I was happy where I was, and I wasn't going to leave just for leaving's sake.
Yeah, Martin says, "Hi, Martin. Was there strong interest from any other team that you wish you could have, which you wish would have happened? I mean, if your ideal team came in for you, who would it have been?"
Liverpool.
Fair enough.
To be fair, I had 3 really good teams that came in for me. Leicester wasn't one of them, but Leicester always kept showing that little bit of interest, but never really came to the table. The 3 clubs that show real big interest was Celtic, West Brom, and Newcastle. I have got a really roundabout story, which was a bit crazy. So when West Brom was showing their interest, they sent every scout, every head scout, then every member of the coaching team, and then the director of football, and then the manager. And the manager was Tony Mowbray at the time. Every scout, every assistant manager, coach, director of football all said, "Yep, got to take him. It'll be great for us." Tony Mowbray come down, and I can't remember who we played, but I didn't score, probably didn't play that well. He went back and went, "No, I don't want him." So I was like, right, okay, so that one's dead in the water. And then he then leaves West Brom at the end of the season because they get relegated, and then he goes to Celtic. So the chances of me going to Celtic, because he's the one who doesn't fancy me, is now dead in the water. But then West Brom comes back up. So then, because West Brom and Newcastle are the 2 teams that go down, neither team have got a manager, and then it was basically a race to who appointed their manager first. West Brom appointed Di Matteo, and then about 2 weeks later, Newcastle appointed Chris Hughton. So it was, I mean, I would have loved to have gone to Celtic. It would have been amazing. I think it would have been a really nice transition as well. I feel like you definitely would have gone to probably the best team in Scotland, where you'd have got loads of chances. You'd have played in front of 60,000. You'd have had Europa League football, possibly Champions League football. It would have been, incredible Old Firm derby nights, that sort of thing. That would have been probably my preferred move. But as soon as Tony Mowbray went there, that move was out the window straight away.
Yeah, I mean, they're not bad clubs to come in for you, though, are they? I mean, that must give you a boost.
No, absolutely. But it was one of them. Like, I used to have a laugh and a joke every week when the press used to come to this. When you used to come to the stadium to do, the press conferences, and literally asking who's in for me this week, and they would literally say, "Oh, we've had this club or this club, we've heard this rumor or this rumor." So sometimes you got to take them with a pinch of salt, because chances are 99% of them are rubbish anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. You mentioned Liverpool. I would imagine you're quite happy about yesterday then, were you? Squeaked through, didn't they? Just a bit.
Yeah, that's it. Scraped through that one.
Yeah, just managed to get through. Yeah, let's have a look. Would you or have you ever recommended Swindon Town to any player, says Claire?
Yeah, all the time. A lot of young players, whoever I talk to, 100%. Now you've got Jody Morris as a manager, somebody who I think is going to play good football. I think the club's move forward in terms of what's the type of facilities they've got inside the stadium. The dressing room is probably a lot nicer than it was when I was there. And I think obviously Marcus, the groundsman, I still keep in contact with him. He was amazing when we were there, so he's only got better. The pitch has always been amazing, so it's a great place for young players to go and earn their stripes. Bit similar to what I did, so 100%. I always recommend Swindon.
That's good to know. Anthony says, I was at the Huddersfield game. You scored. We lost 2-1. There you go.
I scored.
Yeah, I was there, I think, as well. I mean, yeah, it probably was. Now, so West Bromwich Albion.
Yep.
That's where we end up. And £1.5 million. Now, that's a lot of money in July 2009. How does that feel? 1.5 million all of a sudden?
Yeah, I mean, I always knew there was going to be a price tag, and I always, and this is going to even sound even stranger. I think I was their record signing for a bit. And you think of the size of club that they are, they never used to buy players. They always used to get like young players or free transfers and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, to be sort of someone be able to put a value on that, it was strange. But then all of a sudden I felt loads of pressure, because when you flip it from, I was coming from Reading to Swindon, so I was sort of up a club that was a league above to come into a team that was a league below. Then you flip that on its head, and you're coming from a league below to go into a league above. Bearing in mind they'd just been relegated from the Premier League, so they still had 90% of the team that was in the Premier League. So for me, I went from watching these guys on Match of the Day and Sky and all this on against Man City, Man United, and all that sort of stuff, to then being in the same dressing room as them. And as much as I had confidence in my own ability and everything else, walking into that dressing room scared the living shite out of me, because I don't know, I just felt like the imposter syndrome sort of thing coming in, and I had to kind of like audition to be a part of this team. And regardless of, they bought you, they've paid the money, and you're there on merit and everything else. but I just didn't feel it, which was really strange.
Because a lot of footballers say you have to impress on your first day of training. Is that true?
I couldn't tell you what my first day training was. I'll be honest. It's probably the biggest blur. It would have been a running session because we were in pre-season. So, if you can impress in pre-season in a running session, that's definitely not me. It's never been me. It never was me. So, who knows?
Fair enough. But let's talk about that amazing goal against Tottenham, which was on Match of the Day and was featured as one of their goals of the month. I mean, I watched it several times yesterday. It's a beautiful goal, isn't it? I mean, take us through it. Can you remember how it happened?
Yeah. I remember being on the bench. I remember getting the call that I was going on. And then I think if there's ever a clip of the goal where we win possession back, I think we make about nearly 20, 30 passes. And this is a Tottenham team that were going for top 4 at the time. And we were trying to get to 40 points. And yeah, I came on. I was sort of just got told to sort of go and be busy and try and get yourself in around the box and get yourself a chance. And then I was involved in the build up a couple of times, which was great. And then I was able to pull off and pull into a bit of space, and then sort of face with William Gallas in front of me, and it was can you just shift and shoot, really. Strange enough, I'd actually scored that goal 2 times in training leading up to that. So maybe it was a bit of muscle memory that allowed me to do that. It was definitely a special goal for me, my one and only Premier League goal. I mean, I'm very proud of it, but probably a little bit ashamed that it's my one and only. But if it is always going to be my one and only, it's not a bad one to have.
It's a pretty good one to have, isn't it? I mean, I would say, yeah. Simon, you're a regular Championship goal scorer for West Bromwich Albion and Forest, including another great goal, that Forest goal against Birmingham. Can you describe how that difficult jump to the Premier League is? And then you've got so much to talk about, but I want to talk about your Irish career as well, because that's a fabulous thing to have in your CV, isn't it? And international footballer. So the jump to the Premier League, then, you've done the journey. I think it's fair to say, haven't you? You've got to the Premier League. How is that?
Tough. Again, similar to going into the dressing room for the first day. Then all of a sudden, you go from playing League One to the Premier League in 2 seasons. It's a daunting task, and I knew I was brought in to score goals in the Championship, and then inevitably the size of the club West Brom are, and you've just been given 100 million to spend. The chances are you're going to get players are going to come in. So we brought in a few strikers. My time was going to be limited again on the pitch, but I believed that I was at a club where I was going to be given a chance, which was great. But the step is big. It is big. It's not somewhere where you can find your feet either. You've got to hit the ground running. And if I'd have got off the mark early, I feel like I would have been able to build on that and gain more confidence, because it took me a long time to get off the mark in the Premier League. I just never felt like I belonged in there. I felt like I needed at least one more season in the Championship, possibly with West Brom, where I could go and score 15, 20 goals, and then I would give myself a crack at the Premier League. But I'll never begrudge jumping 2 divisions in 2 years. No chance.
No, and actually, as I said, you got that on your CV, so you made it to the top show, as they say in America, the big show. And football was changing then, wasn't it? The big money was coming in. Life as a footballer was, pretty decent, I guess, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky. I had some good people around me, but also I was earning money that was lottery money. Do you know what I mean? It was stuff of dreams. It's allowed me to have a lot of the things that I've got now and provide for my family, which is amazing. So I'm very thankful for that. And obviously, I guess it kick-started my career when I was at the county ground. So
that interview I saw with you this afternoon when you were talking about how people suddenly make a lot of demands on your money. How difficult is it? Footballers are young people generally. They need good advice, don't they? Suddenly, they're earning this huge amount of money every week. And I'm sure people are drawn to them, aren't they? How difficult is it to work out which are the genuine and which aren't?
You got to have a real small circle of friends, and small circle of people that you trust. It's a scary stat. 2 in 5 footballers are bankrupt after 2 years of retiring. So and that genuinely comes from bad investments, bad advice, divorce, which is unfortunate sometimes. But it's a real scary place for retired footballers. And I know people will say but you've earned loads of money and stuff like that, and I get it, but also you're a very long time retired at 35, so you have to try and earn as much as you possibly can in a short space of time, and then try and make that lot of money work for the rest of your life, as well as your family and your kids and everything else. So it's a tough place to be. So you have to have a real good grounding, possibly a good upbringing if you possibly can, and also then and trust in the people that you've got around you. Otherwise, you're going to struggle very much.
Yeah, we can briefly talk about Southend because it was asked earlier. They've been through some tough times, haven't they, Southend?
Yeah.
And you decided to leave Southend. How was that? Because I think you were pretty popular there, weren't you?
Yeah, it was the longest I'd ever spent at a football club, 4 years. So again, similar to the fans at Swindon, I had a really good rapport with them. Scored loads of goals again. But it's a football club that is, notoriously in trouble, always in trouble. Supporters turn out all the time. The owner just doesn't have enough money. He wants to. He borrows and steals from people, and he's always in the papers with a court case here and there, tax bill here and there, and it just unsettles players. It unsettles the staff. But it's a massive credit to that football team and the staff behind it that they carry on the way they do with an owner that they've got.
Yeah. How did playing for Ireland come about, says Dave? Now, if I was to say your grandmother was born in Ireland, is that right? Giovanni Trapattoni was the man who gave you the call up. How was that?
It was strange because I'd already had my holidays booked when not when he phoned because his English was terrible. But when I got the call to say I was going in the provisional squad at the end of the season, it was great. Listen, I'd always made a really big point of playing for Ireland. When I was a kid, listen, I was born in England. My parents are English, but growing up playing for Reading, never got a chance to play at England schoolboy levels or anything else like that. And I remember being given the opportunity under other of my managers a chance of possibly playing for Ireland, and I was like, yeah, I fancy that. It was either possibly make one appearance for England and be, the forgotten person, or it's make I may end up making 30 appearances and going to European Championships for Ireland, and that meant more to me than one appearance for England would ever make. So I was able to go and experience amazing things with Ireland. Like I say, qualify for a European Championship for a small country is something massively to be proud of.
Yeah, 30 appearances, 4 goals, international goals. There's another thing on the CV.
Yeah. It was amazing. I scored on my debut against Northern Ireland, and then I scored two games later against Italy. So that was amazing. Probably felt that international football was easier. 2 in 3 or 2 in 4. It was great. And then, I don't know. It's probably tough because I felt like I wanted to play loads more, and then, my game time again just sort of dwindled a little bit, and I didn't as much as I played 30 appearances, it'd be interesting to see how many of those were starts. I don't think there's that many. But again, immensely proud of each and every one of them. My caps are behind me in the cabinet. So yeah, absolutely proud of them.
Yeah, so you should be. I think you beat Italy, didn't you? And that is it a friendly you beat them?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a thing to be sneezed at, that is it? I have to say.
2-0.
And then Australia.
Always nice.
Sorry, go on. Say it again. I missed that bit, Simon. What did you say?
No, I said immensely proud of that one. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Australia, which is where you finished your career. How was that?
It was good. It was really good. It was somewhere I'd never wanted to go, somewhere where I didn't ever envisage me visiting or going at all. But when my time came to an end at Southend, I needed something that was going to reset the batteries a little bit, somewhere giving me a new challenge. Body was falling apart a little bit, needed operations here and there. And not to take the A-League lightly at all, but they only play 20 games a season, whereas instead of 46, 48 games in the UK, 50 games if you're in the Cups and stuff, I felt like I needed a little bit more of one game a week. So I got an opportunity to go out there. They were interested in me the season before. And when Sol Campbell pulled me in the office on New Year's Eve, he said, we're going to go in a different direction. Your game time's not going to be any good. So you're probably better off going to find a new club. So I was like, sound, I'll go as far away from Southend as possible. Let's go the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's quite a long way from Southend, that, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
One or two other things that have come in. Tim says, one thing's for sure, Simon has still got a great career ahead of him. Speaks so intelligently and so grounded. Martin says, best player you have played with. Who is the best player you've played with? Robbie
Keane was the best player I played with. So intelligent, somebody 2-3 steps ahead of everybody else. Just an all-round goal scorer. Very similar to what I said earlier about always looking for rebounds, always trying to get shots off. He was definitely that. And listen, he had an unbelievable career, and he scored over 100 Premier League goals. So he's not a bad person to have.
Yeah. Did you ever fancy doing a somersault when you scored a goal?
I used to when I was a kid.
Did you?
But, because I used to do gymnastics as a kid at school.
Oh, right.
But yeah, as soon as I started playing football professionally and my hamstrings started getting tight, it was never happening anymore.
No, he used to do that a lot, didn't he? Do you keep in touch with any of your old Swindon teammates, asked Emma? I'm guessing yes.
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah. Do you know what? I know he wasn't there that long. I saw Callum Kennedy the other day. Obviously, I saw Hal Robson-Kanu a few weeks back. I bumped into Billy Painter in Temple Bar in Dublin one Christmas. So every now and again, obviously, I think we've all got each other on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. So you get a like and a retweet or whatever every now and again, which is nice. So yeah, nothing. We're not meeting up and being best friends at all, but we're still mutual and still chat every now and again.
Malcolm says you're amazing for us, Simon. Thank you. And the next question, which is what I was going to ask you, Lee's asked this. What are you up to now? Because you're 35, which, to me, it's kind of like, wow, as a 67-year-old, 35 is ridiculously young. So you've retired at quite a young age. So what are you up to now?
Yeah, I retired 33, 34. I had my daughter when I was in Australia, but she was here. So I came back, spent some time with her and my family. And then, fast forward 18 months, 2 years, we've had a second one. So I've just spent time with the family, really. But I've wanted to get into football. I really have. I gave myself 2 years to to pick up the phone, go watch training, go speak to managers, and get into football. I love the media. I love doing punditry, that sort of thing. But so does everybody when they retire. So it's a very flooded market, and you kind of have to be a good friend of somebody's in the media to do it, which I don't really have as much as I would love to have that kind of career, because I think it's talking about something that I enjoy, something that I love, watching games of football. So and I'm honest, I'm not somebody who's just going to stand there and go, oh yeah, it's a really good game. I'll be like, no, so and so was great, so and so was poor, technicalities, that sort of thing. I'll go into detail, which is, for me, is more important than being a bit vanilla on the telly, and I see too many of those people at the moment. So, but there you go. But what I'm up to now, I'm about to open a gym actually in Southend, only about 20 minutes away from where I live, because I wanted to replicate the dressing room. I used to love the dressing room as a player, somewhere where you could come in, enjoy it, have fun, work hard for each other. So I'm trying to recreate that kind of atmosphere in a gym setting, purely class-based, and watch people enjoy fitness and get proven results, which is something that, if you've got a really good team and you win on a Saturday or a Tuesday night, it's a proven method. So that's what I'm up to now. It's we're opening on the 18th of March, so just under 2 weeks. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Oh, well, we wish you all the very best with that. I hope it goes very well. And the final question I have to ask you is, behind you have the Wolf of Wall Street poster, and it's autographed by various people. Now, is Leonardo DiCaprio on there? Who's on that poster?
They're all on it.
Right.
Yeah, so Martin Scorsese signed it, DiCaprio signed it, Jonah Hill signed it, Margot Robbie signed it, Matthew McConaughey signed it. Yeah, they're all on there.
Wow. So how did you get that?
My wife was at an auction, and then she couldn't sit on her hands.
Very good. That's fair enough. Dave says we'd love to get Simon on BBC Wiltshire commentary. I mean, do you get back to the county ground very often, or do you at all come back?
I haven't been back to the county ground since I retired, or probably even since I left and stuff, really. But yeah, there was a few chats about doing match day commentary for teams in and around like the Essex area, London area. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm absolutely, open to doing anything like that. I'm open to doing all kinds of media. It's not, like I say, it's something that I enjoy. So yeah, anyone fancies having me on to bore people, I'm more than happy to do so.
Well, you wouldn't bore people. Thank you very much indeed for being with us tonight. We've only scratched the surface of an incredible career, because I could have talked about all sorts of things as well. But thank you very much indeed for that. And I think it's fair to say that all the comments we've had coming in, Chris, have all been positive about Simon Cox, haven't they?
And there's been a lot more than what you've been able to pass through, Vic. So as Vic said, I will collate all these and send them through to you, Simon, because there's some lovely ones on there. So we will do that. But thank you very, very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and we'd love to see you down the county ground at some point. So if you're ever down this way or whatever, please let us know, and we can meet up with you. So
absolutely
brilliant. Thank you. So Vic will be back next panel after the Carlisle game. And so I think anything else, Vic? I don't think we've got anything else. Again, another shout.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Thank you. Yeah, just say thank you ever so much to Simon, because it's always great to talk to players who play for the town with distinction. And Dave says, thank you, Simon. You're a fantastic player for Swindon. All the messages are like that. So you're all right.
And I think we'll have to have a part 2 as well, Simon, because as Vic said, I'm sure we've only sort of scratched the surface. So we'll have a Simon Cox part 2 on the sofa. So
would that be all right with you?
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely, anytime.
Brilliant. That's
Brilliant. Great. Thank you. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We will be back next Monday. But until then, have a good week.